I've been involved in bodybuilding for nearly 60 years. I was a former bodybuilding competitor myself, and I wrote for the top bodybuilding magazines for about 35 years. So I've seen and I've attended a lot of major contests, minor contests. I've seen them all, and I've seen certain trends over the years. I've kind of noticed certain patterns of what wins contests. And I've come to the conclusion that one of the main muscle groups that are missing in a lot of bodybuilders, and the muscle group that actually often determines the winners from the losers, or the person who wins, is back development. And a lot of bodybuilders lack back development. So I want to talk about in this video about the reasons for that. But on the onset, I'm going to say this: that a lot of the ability to develop a fantastic back, a lot of it's determined by genetics. In other words, so you could do the same exercises, train hard, train correctly, and you still won't get the back development of some of these people because they just have genetics going for them. For example, just recently I was talking to my good friend Phil Williams, who won the 1985 Nationals. He had a fantastic back. He won. Phil had a great overall physique, but his back was particularly good. I was there at a Chicago Pro Show where he competed against a couple of top guys, including Gary Stratum. Gary Stratum was considerably bigger than Phil, but when they turned to the back, Phil won the contest. Right then and there, he won the contest because Gary's back, he had fairly good lats, but he had literally no back detail at all. And Phil had tremendous back detail in every inch of his back. He won the contest on that basis. Another example was in 1991 at the let me think, was it 91? I believe it was 91, or maybe it was 90. No, I think it was 90. At the 90 Mr. Olympia, a newcomer from Britain, Dorian Yates, was challenging the incumbent Mr. Olympia, Lee Haney, who I believe was going for his 8th Mr. Olympia, and Dorian Yates was kind of a sensation at the time. In fact, a couple of the officials came up to me after the prejudging and kind of told me that there'd be a new Mr. Olympia declared that night. And I know who they were talking about. They were talking about Dorian Yates. Now, Dorian was great, but, and of course he did have a great back, but, you know, Lee Haney knew he was going to be up for a big challenge that year, and he peaked. He was in among the best shape he ever appeared. I saw him win several Mr. Olympias, and for the it was the 91 Olympia. No, it was the 91. The 90 Olympia was held in Chicago. That was a whole different story. This was the 91 Olympia. It was held in Orlando, Florida. And, you know, it was close from the front. I mean, Dorian Yates looked fantastic. He had made a lot of improvement since his first pro appearance in 1990, where he lost the Night of the Champions to Mohammed Benaziza. I was there at that contest too. And he had put on considerably more size. Yates, he used to kind of go in hiding. They used to call him the Shadow because of that. He would kind of disappear and come back. And when he came back in 91, he had made noticeable improvement. He was hard. He was in great shape. And from the front, it looked like Haney was going to have his problems with Dorian Yates. Dorian Yates definitely presented a challenge until they turned to the back. Again, you know, Lee Haney had this tremendous back. I believe Lee Haney won his 8 Mr. Olympia contests on the strength of his torso. He had excellent torso, excellent pectoral development, and his more than anything else, his back development. Lee Haney had exceptional back development. His lats were wide and his back was thick, and he had detail all over his back. You'd see all the small muscles in his back. And I remember turning to my good friend Don Ross, who was sitting next to me. When they turned to the back, you know, Haney was standing next to Dorian Yates. I turned to Don Ross and I said, Lee just won the contest, and Don agreed with me. Because you could see, we were up close enough we could see them. I could see that Lee Haney's back was clearly superior to Dorian Yates. He had wider lats and he also had much more back detail. So, in other words, these are examples of how having superior back development allowed these men to win contests, even when it was close. There was another famous contest in 1997, Mr. Olympia, which featured Dorian Yates, who had now won a couple of Mr. Olympias, up against Nasser El Sambadi. Nasser had, I was there. This remains a controversial contest because a lot of people believe Nasser was in better shape that year than Dorian. Dorian had an obvious bicep problem. He had torn his bicep, and his bicep was almost all the way up to his shoulder. He also had a hamstring injury, so when he turned to the side, it looked like he had almost no hamstring muscles in one of his legs. And also, he looked like his lats didn't really look up to par either. And my initial impression was, I'm going to give it to Nasser. It's close. Dorian still looked pretty good, but I felt that, seeing the men up close right next to each other, I was like 10 feet away, and I saw the comparison posing. I gave it to Nasser. And as far as the back development goes, I felt they were about tied. In other words, Dorian had tremendous back development. Dorian is another guy who won the Mr. Olympia several years in a row, largely on the basis of his tremendous back development. He had wide lats, thick lats, and he also had a lot of back detail. Now, but of course, Nasser also had wide lats and a lot of back detail. So again, I would have given Nasser the edge. He had most of the body parts, but they did give the title that year to Dorian Yates. And then, of course, this was followed by the era of Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman had several tremendous body parts. When Ronnie Coleman, he was so dominating in the years that he won, that when he walked down the stage, immediately they were judging from second on down. He was such a clear winner, nobody even came close to him when he was in top shape. Later on, he started to decline a little bit because of injuries, but the first couple of years, he was literally invincible. He had giant legs, giant arms. His back was absolutely incredible. I mean, it was wide and thick. And again, the huge back that Ronnie Coleman had, top to bottom, lower back, upper back, lats, played a huge role in why he won the Mr. Olympia contest. And you can go on and on. And you could don't go by my word for it. Go on Google, look at the photos. You'll see that the back, 9 out of 10 times, it's the back development that determines the winner when contests are close. It's often the back detail. Now, a lot of bodybuilders like Gary Stratham have tremendous body. Gary has fantastic shoulder development. His torso from the front looks unbeatable. Small waist, good abs. But again, when he turns to the back, literally almost no back detail at all. When I say detail, I'm talking about all the little muscles. For example, from an anatomical point of view, it's the teres major and minor. It's the rhomboid. Some of these things you can't really see that well. But when a person is very muscularly defined and they do like a double on back shot, you can see all the muscles come out besides the lats. The lats are relatively easy to develop. I mean, if you do the standard exercises such as bent over rows, bent over dumbbell rows, lat pull downs, chins, it's not that hard to develop lats. It's a little bit trickier though to develop those little muscles I'm talking about that give you that tremendous detail in the back that just wows the audience. When these guys turn to the back, I'm talking about the guys with great back detail, the audience goes nuts because it looks so impressive. Now, why do so many bodybuilders, this is the purpose of this video, I want to answer the question of why so many bodybuilders lack that detail. Again, some of it is genetics. Some guys, no matter what they do, can't get that kind of minute detail where every inch of the back has like crevices and cuts and muscle. There's no blank spots, so to speak. A lot of that's genetics, but a lot of it, and I believe the majority of the reason why most bodybuilders have weak backs, and when I say weak back, I'm talking about the fine detail of the back, is because of very, very bad style of back training. I've watched them. I just saw a video just about an hour ago before I taped this video. It was Phil Heath, who has his own YouTube channel, and he was illustrating his back exercises. And I noticed that, most of the back exercise he did with pretty good form. He did the standard lat pull down, then he did a kind of a high pull with the parallel grip. But the thing I noticed is when he got to one-arm dumbbell rows, and this is an exercise that's done wrong, about 99% of the time. When he did his one-arm rows, he kept the dumbbell, instead of pronating like this, he kept it like this, like you would with a barbell, and he pulled it. He had a 100-pound dumbbell, and he only pulled it up about less than halfway. And if you look at his back, which I looked at, his lat was slightly contracting at the beginning of the movement, but there was no contraction whatsoever of the upper back. No contraction whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, before anyone says anything, Phil Heath did have a great back. And that also played a large part in how he won the Mr. Olympia, I believe it was 7 times. His back was fantastic, don't get me wrong. But what I maintain is that Phil Heath's back was that way for 2 reasons. First was genetics. Second reason is that most of his lat exercises, he did full movements, and here's the key. He went all the way back like this. You have to bring your arms back. The functions of the lat is to bring the arms down and back in line with the torso. So it's kind of like this. In other words, to get a full contraction of lat, your elbows have. Most guys, when they do any kind of row, again, they will not involve the upper back. They're not contracting the muscles, because they only go halfway. They're doing partial lat work. Most of what's pulling the weight is not even the lats, it's the biceps. In other words, these guys are working more biceps than lats. In fact, I remember writing about a study years ago in one of the bodybuilding magazines where they had men do no direct, they had one group of bodybuilders did direct bicep works, like bicep curls, preacher curls, barbell curls. The other group did no direct bicep work, but did back work, lat pull downs, chins, barbell rows, dumbbell rows. And they did this for like 3 months, and they compared. They were looking to see how this type of training would affect the biceps. In other words, would not doing direct bicep work have a negative effect on the biceps if you still continue to do back work? The study results show no difference whatsoever. Both groups showed the same level, the same amount of muscle gains in the biceps, meaning that the group that did only back training showed as much bicep development, as much bicep gains as the guys that did direct bicep work. And again, I quickly add, I'm not saying you shouldn't do direct bicep work. My point being here that the biceps are surprisingly involved in back training. And I believe, from watching a lot of people train, when they do most of their back exercises, the bicep is doing much more work than any of the back muscles, including the lats. And the lats, again, are easier to develop than the upper back and middle back. The middle back is almost always lacking in about 98% of bodybuilders. And how do you get these muscles? Again, when you do your back workout, when you're doing any kind of pull, any kind of row, you got to make sure that your elbows go past the torso. You have to contract the back. You have to feel it contract. That's the only way to involve those muscles. When you do chins, the famous trainer Vince Garanda taught me this over half a century ago when I trained at his gym. I was doing chins like most people do, where you chin, and I'd kind of go literally up to my chin like this. I'd stop here, right? And he saw me do this, and he said, "You're doing that wrong." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You're getting your biceps, but you're not working your lats." And he explained to me what I'm telling you. He says, to involve the lats, you have to have the elbows go past your torso. So what he had me do, he's had me use a medium grip, and when I chinned, I had to go all the way up, kind of arch my back until the lower, I touched the bar with my lower pecs. So the finishing position was kind of like this. But you notice my arms are down and back past the torso. I'll tell you, the first time I did, I could still remember after all these years, the pump in my lats was, I never got a pump in my lats from doing chins like that. To this day, I still do my chins like that. However, the Gold's Gym in Venice, where I currently train, I don't see anybody doing chins right. As a matter of fact, as a tangential comment, I don't see anybody training correctly at Gold's. Nobody at Gold's Gym. Of course, I go at night. I don't see a lot of people, as much people during the day. But everybody in that gym trains incorrectly. Their form is absolutely horrendous. These people are not I'm talking about not just lats, but every exercise. They have no idea what they're doing. It's almost laughable. They don't know how to do curls. They don't know how to do lateral raises. I mean, I see people do lateral raises like this. I mean, with it, it's crazy. These people are completely clueless. And of course, needless to say, they bring their cell phones into the gym and they rest like 20 minutes between each set to play with Facebook and Instagram, which alone kills the workout. Because as Arnold Schwarzenegger pointed out many times, you have to have a mind-muscle connection. You cannot let your brain be distracted by looking at stupid things like Facebook and Instagram in between sets. That takes your mind away from the muscle. You're not going to fully contract all the muscle fibers. This has been proven scientifically, by the way. This is not a theory. I wrote about it in my Applied Metabolics newsletter. I provided scientific evidence that if your mind, in other words, if you're not fully concentrating on the muscle you're training, you're not going to involve the maximum number of muscle fibers, and the gains will be far and few between. But getting back to the lats, again, you know, in all your exercise, barbell rows, when you do your dumbbell rows, Lee Haney, who I just mentioned earlier, 8-time Mr. Olympia, I interviewed him on his back training years ago when he was Mr. Olympia, and I remember something he told me that stuck in my mind after all these years. I said he was describing his back exercise. Again, standard movements, chins, pull downs, rows, that type. But when he described his one-arm rows, with, you know, looking at Lee Haney's back, I figured he'd, you know, use like 120-pound dumbbells or something like that. And by the way, I've seen videos of Ronnie Coleman doing one-arm rows with 150. Again, very poor form. He goes halfway up. He's working at that giant bicep he used to have. Again, he had a great back, but it wasn't from doing the one-arm dumbbell rows. I can guarantee you that. But Lee Haney, I said to him, what do you use, Lee? What do you use, like 100s, 120s for the one-arm dumbbell rows? Jerry, he says, I use 75 pounds. I said, 75 pounds with your back development? He says, yes, but you have to understand how I do it. And he showed it to me. What he did is he started with a stretch on the bottom, and he brought the dumbbells all the way up past his head, fully contracting those little back muscles in the upper back. That's why Lee Haney had such a great back. Another thing I see, another common mistake I see with back, I mean, I'm talking about back training because of all the body parts I see being trained. The back is trained the most incorrectly of any muscles in the gym. All these people have no idea, and that's why their backs stink. They'll never have good backs unless they do the proper training. One guy who's a stickler for training, who I've talked about, is Charles Glass, who's a former great bodybuilder. He's now an elite trainer at Gold's Gym. We were talking one day about how he was training Flex Wheeler at the time. Flex Wheeler had a fantastic, again, one of those guys that had muscle everywhere on his back. Take a look at photos of him. Don't take my word for it. And I said to him, Charles, I said, and I was watching him train Flex. I noticed Flex was doing extremely full movements all the way back, contracting his middle and upper back. I said, Charles, is there any reason why you have Flex train like that? And he said it's because that's the only way to involve the small back muscles in the upper and middle back. He says, unless you go all the way back and really squeeze, you're not going to work those back muscles. And other guys he trained also showed similar results, proof of the pudding of what I'm saying. Another exercise, I have to say, this makes me laugh. There's a machine, I don't know if it's, you guys have it in all your gyms, but there's a machine, it's been around for years, it's called the Nautilus pullover machine. And this is a little pet peeve I have. I was taught how to use the Nautilus pullover machine by the actual inventor of the machine. His name was Arthur Jones. And I also, coincidentally, taught, when I went to New York, I was in a gym in New York, and I taught Tom Sansone. The gym, that particular gym had just got in a line of the Nautilus machines, including the Nautilus pullover machine. Oh, for crying out loud, it's Bruno. And I just got... I'll have to talk above Bruno. Sorry, I can't reach him. Bruno. Anyway, I had just gotten in a line of the Nautilus machines, and Tom Sansone, who was Mr. America in 1958, he asked me if I knew how to use the machine, and I showed him. I showed him how to use it. Now the key with the Nautilus pullover machine, oh my God, I can't take this. Bruno, come here. Bruno. Hold on one second. Hold on a second. Okay, he's going to make a guest appearance here. Hold on. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Wait. Anyway, here's Bruno. All right, getting back to what I was saying, Tom Sansone asked me how to do the Nautilus pullover machine, and I proceeded to show it to him. And I remember he was wearing a white tie and a shirt because he was an executive with the Jacqueline gym chain, and I showed him how to do it. But, you know, in particular, what I'm talking about is the Nautilus machine, pull-up machine, if you look at it, it has these pads around that you're supposed to put your elbow on. The whole purpose of the Nautilus pull-up machine is to isolate the lats, and it actually emulates the functional lats because, as I said, this is the movement. It goes all the way down, and your arms go past your torso, right? You get a full stretch at the top. Your arms go past your torso. Now, here's the point I'm trying to make. Those pads, you're supposed to push, not with your arms. You're supposed to keep your elbows on the pads and push with your elbows, so your arms are not really, you're not pulling with your arms as you do in most lat exercises, lat pull downs, rows, you're pulling with your arms. This is direct on the lats. But 99, I have never, not 99, 100%, I have never seen a single person at Gold's Gym use the pull-over machine correctly. I mean, those pads are there. You would think that somebody with even a 0.3 IQ would look at those pads and say, those pads must be there for a reason. Maybe I'm supposed to push on the pads with my elbows. No, what they do is they grasp the bar. They grasp the bar and they're doing like pullovers, holding the bar, and that defeats the purpose, the entire purpose of the Nautilus pull-up machine, which is to work the lats directly without involving excessive arm development. So they're completely destroying the exercise when they do that. And another thing they do is sometimes instead of keeping the elbows like this, they go like this. They do a cross movement. And the cross movement, you can't go all the way down. And as I said, your arms have to go all the way back past your torso to fully contract the lats. So, they're not even working the lats fully. El stupido, these people are. They're dumb as wood. They don't know how to train. So, I'm just going to leave it at that. Again, to sum up the points, if you want to have complete you're only limited by your genetics. In other words, not everyone can have a back like Phil Williams or Lee Haney, but you can have a much, much better back. I'm talking much better if you simply do, fully contract your back, squeeze all the way back when you do a row. When you do a dumbbell row, bring it all the way up and squeeze the muscles in the upper back. When you do a pulley row, keep your chest up, squeeze all the way back. If you do that, you'll be working your lats and those little muscles in the back that give the back detail. You'll have a much, much better back. If you don't do it that way, you might get some lat development, you might get some bicep development, but your back will never be good. And remember, the way contests are today, no matter what the division, men's physique, classic physique, of course on the elite pro level, without a complete back, you have no chance of even making the top 5. So, if you train your back properly, like I said, and don't be so concerned about weight. Like I see a lot of these guys, they want to use really heavy weight in a one-arm dumbbell rows. They want to use like 100 pounds and they go up like 3 inches. They're not even working their biceps when they do that. It's a joke. Forget about it. Use the weight that you can handle for anywhere from 8 to 12 reps. You can do a finishing set. What I've always done is I like to do a pump set at the end. Well, I'll drop the weight a lot and do as much as 15 to 20 reps. Believe it or not, some studies have shown that if you do a light set of maybe 20 up to 20 reps after doing a couple of heavy sets or moderately heavy, you actually stimulate more growth hormone. The study actually showed this a couple of years ago. So that's about it. I hope you guys take to heart what I just said. And if you do, I think if you follow my advice, you will see your back will be improved tremendously if you follow this advice. And if you are a competing bodybuilder, you'll start to win contests because, again, if you don't have that full back detail, when you turn to the back, if you don't have the detail, no matter how wide your lats are, you are going to lose to the man who has the detail. So that's it for this video. If you want more information on nutrition, exercise science, ergogenic aids, anti-aging research you can use today, fat loss techniques that really work, hormonal therapy, supplement science, women's health and fitness, many more topics. Nobody covers as many topics as I do in my Applied Metabolics newsletter, www.appliedmetabolics.com. When you subscribe, I'll send you an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page. Each day I post new information on medicine, exercise, science, and general health. I have an email portal on my Applied Metabolics webpage where each day, I'm sorry, wrong line, where my Applied Metabolics webpage, where current subscribers only can send me short questions about anything they might have read in the newsletter, anything that comes to mind. As long as they're short questions, and they have to be from current subscribers, I don't answer unsolicited questions. You're welcome to leave comments under these videos, possibly ideas for future videos or something like that. Again, I can't guarantee I'll answer any comments left under the videos because I prefer to answer comments only from my current subscribers. And, I guarantee if you subscribe to my Applied Metabolics newsletter, I've seen a lot of digital newsletters. I actually subscribed to quite a few of them when I started my Applied Med. I wanted to see what they look like and what they contain. And I can honestly say, looking directly at you, that none of these come close to equaling the amount of or the depth of information in my Applied Metabolics newsletter. When you read Applied Metabolics, you will definitely learn something in every issue, no matter what your level of education. I don't care if you have a PhD, MD, it makes no difference. You will learn something. I cover material and research that isn't commonly found on websites, blogs, and other areas of the internet. I cover a kind of off-the-road type stuff that's extremely practical and useful, though. So again, subscribe today, www.appliedmetabolics.com. If you want to have the best friend you'll ever have, get one of these. Get one of these. This guy right here. Say hello, Bruno.
Hi, how you doing?
This is Bruno the dog. He hasn't made an appearance. He had made a forced appearance today because he wouldn't shut up, right, Bruno? Anyway, this dog, believe it or not, could be as old as 18 or 19 years of age, and he's still going strong. And the reason has to do with good nutrition. I only give him the best foods. I give him a couple of supplements, and I give him a lot of love, and that's what keeps dogs going. So take care, and thanks for listening.